everybody, it's Miss Jersold and this is lesson 4. Thank you for sticking with us throughout this whole week. This has been one of my favorite standards to teach. I love teaching this kind of stuff, so hang in there. We only have 2 more to go, and I hope you are keeping up, keeping along, and if not, make sure you're going back to look at the other lessons to review any concepts. We are working on 7.5G, which is describe the impact of word choice, imagery, and literary devices, including figurative language in an author's style. You guys have done great with this so far. There's been some poetry portfolio incorporation, so at this time, go ahead and grab all your notes, all your poems, your homework from last night, and a pen or pencil, and we can begin. To review, yesterday we looked at personification, which is giving human-like characteristics to non-human things. We then were looking at the Nika Giovanni poem, Everything Good is Simple, and I provided a template on RPS at home that you were to write and use to make your own Everything Good is Simple poem. I'm so curious about those, so if you are in my class on Google Classroom, send them to me. If you want to email them to me, I would love to give out my email publicly. I probably shouldn't, but if you Google me and get in contact with me, I'd love to see those poems as well. All right, today's goals. We have 2. We're going to identify 2 really cool types of figurative language in text. The first is called alliteration, and the second is called onomatopoeia. So our first figurative device, you're going to want to write this down, is alliteration. The occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. Now, this is a very cool thing to play with in your own poetry. So once you get it, it's definitely a figurative device that you might want to mess around with yourself. So what does that mean? That means that multiple words near each other start with the same letter. Very simple. A way to remember this is by thinking of tongue twisters. I wish I was with you in person so I could ask you guys for some tongue twisters. So I'm going to pull some up here and let's see if I can do this. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? A good cook could cook as much cookies as a good cook who could cook cookies. Black bug bit a big black bear, but where is the big black bear that the big black bug bit? Sheep should sleep in a shed. I saw a saw that could outsaw any other saw I ever saw. A big bug bit the little beetle, but the little beetle bit the big bug back. Show Sean Sharon's shabby shoes. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? A woodchuck could chuck all the wood he could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Silly Sally swiftly shooed 7 silly sheep. The 7 silly sheep, silly Sally shooed, chilly shallied south. These sheep shouldn't sleep in a shack. That was the hardest one. Silly Sally swiftly shooed 7 silly sheep. The 7 silly sheep, silly Sally shooed, chilly shallied south. These sheep shouldn't sleep in a shack. Alliteration. Here's a more calm approach to alliteration. If you've ever heard of this book, it's called Animalia. I have one of the pictures framed in my classroom. It's actually this one. And it says, lazy lions lounging in the local library. The repetitive nature of that sentence obviously has to do with that very first letter, L. Cool thing about this is that it has it for every single letter of the alphabet. Proud, peacocks, preening, perfect, looch. My favorite animal is a rhinoceros, so I really like this one. Richly robed rhinoceroses riding in rickety red rickshaws. Don't worry, I know you're preteens or teenagers or almost adults. I'm just trying to give you a few quick things so that you don't forget what that word means. So if you were thoroughly annoyed by those tongue twisters, you'll never forget that feeling and you'll always associate it with alliteration. Figurative device number 2, onomatopoeia. And whenever I spell this, I, in my head, say onomatopoeia, just to make sure. A lot of vowels in there. This is the formation of a word from a sound associated with what it is named. For example, cuckoo or sizzles. These words are really cool because they are words that sound like the action. I'll give you some examples, and make sure you write that down. Here are some. Boom, splash, clank, pop, zoom, zzz, crash, splat, crack. Those are all real words in the human language, and the way the word is written kind of sounds like the action. See what I mean? Some more examples. Gasp, mumble. It's right in the front of your mouth. Gurgle, splash, bam, slam, hum. A lot of writers use these words to dress up their writing, much like most figurative language. Here's a fun poem by Shel Silverstein. It's called Push Buttons. I push the light switch button and click, the light goes on. I push the lawnmower button and vroom, it mows the lawn. I push the root beer button and whoosh, it fills my cup. I push the glove compartment button and clack, it opens up. I push the TV button and zap, there's wide arp. I push my belly button and burp. Kind of wish I could burp on command, but that might be inappropriate and disgusting, and I can't. Take a look at this poem, and on your piece of paper, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 uses of onomatopoeia. They're very short words. Write down those 6 words. I'll give you a few seconds. Hit pause if you're not done, and then I will reveal the answer. If you said click, vroom, whoosh, clack, zap, and burp, you are correct and you understand onomatopoeia. Now you have successfully learned alliteration, remember, tongue twisters, anomalia, and onomatopoeia. Remember, clash, belch, gasp. Those 2 figurative devices are really fun to know and mess around with. They can make your poetry or fiction writing really cool. For your homework, you're going to add to your poetry portfolio, and you're going to do so by making a poem that uses onomatopoeia. It's not going to be normal onomatopoeia though. I want you to do onomatopoeia in a way that might not be in the English language. I'm going to read you an example, which once again is one of the most famous poems on the planet. And when I'm done, I think you'll have a better understanding of what kind of words I want you to make up. Here's an example poem, and you might not recognize every word, but that's okay. Try to deduct what it means while I read. Also, check out that monster picture, because it might give you a hint. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mom wraths outgrabe. Beware the jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jub-jub bird, and shun the frumious bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumping back. And hast thou slain the jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, calloo, callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mom's wraths outgrabe. So I've always thought this poem was super cool because so many of the words are made up. Brillig. Brilliant, maybe? Maybe that's what he's going for. Gyre and gimble, mimsy, outgrabe. The juju bird, the frumious bandersnatch. It's not that you're not recognizing these words because you've never heard them. You might not recognize them because they're made up. The reason it kind of makes sense that we understand when there's a positive tone or a negative tone or when he kills a monster is because these words are onomatopoeias. They sound like what they're supposed to be, right? Here's your challenge. I want you to make a poem with complete nonsense words. A minimum of 5. Put in 5 nonsense words in your poem. Just any old word that sounds like what it's supposed to mean, like burbled, or a Snickers snack for a sword. It's a challenge, but I think you can do it. Make sure to look on RPS at home to find a document that's going to ask you some questions about the Jabberwocky poem, and Elsa will give you some directions here. Good work! You now have imagery, personification, alliteration, onomatopoeia, word choice, and figurative versus literal all in your notes and all in your vocabulary. Very proud of you, and I'll see you tomorrow.